top news headlines. Socio-political commentator CHB Joy assists bomb blast at his gate, continuations of digging by BJP-led government. Voters allegedly not allowed to vote by BJP workers in some polling stations in Wangjing Tentha constituencies. INC candidate and PP candidate demand repoll. And reaching Manipur from war-hit Ukraine was like a dream, says medical student Bisanta Soram. Hello, a very good evening. You're watching the Mami TV English News in Focus with me, CHENGLEINGANBI KHAIDEM. The news in detail. Socio-political commentator CHB Joy has asserted that the bomb blast at his residential gate on March 4 is the continuations of gagging of the voice of the people by the BJP government in the last 5 years. Speaking to media persons at a press meet held at his residence at Lamphel, Kuno today, CHB Joy ruled out enmity with any political party or individual. However, he made his turn political speech as discussions and press conferences after his expulsion from BJP. He said the possibility of the bomb threat might be an attempt to silence him political by a group of individuals or political parties who are against his speeches and viewpoint. He said Bijoy further pointed out that the blast at his residence was same as the blast at the residence of National People Party candidate of Khurai Assembly constituencies L. Jayananda on February 24th. But the bombs were dynamite stick attached with fuse, and the fuse was wrapped with newspapers, and as such, the people behind what the blast would be the same party. Stating that the police led by an investigating officer are closely probing the case, he maintained that if there is no political pressure involved in the investigation, the investigating team will head to Nitya Path Chuthek and the clue will lead them to Ningthem Pukrimapal. Asserting that the political terrorism is at the first stage in the state, he asserted that state will witness political violence and bloodshed like that occurring in West Bengal in the next General Assembly elections if the situation is not controlled in time. Bijoy also expressed need for the people of the state to jointly fight against such violent culture which would take away the life of innocent people.
Investigating agencies in Tijan Prajamayanga, Pulaga, and Ogamasi, Mayon waiting at Tadlovase, Apoy Manipur, Ojiksi, political patronage Hamba, Yamna, Sativa, rock element Kara, Manimakatam, Nakosirasito, Nokosis, Loin Kangarabani. However, rock elements here, Makoji, they should be kept behind bars. Natrakadi, Manipuriam, Tazadana. Sativa violent gang war, political backing labor, Natraga, Apogi, Palm the Insa, Makumarang Kangdava, Apogi, Peg encounter, Loy, Rain Kaluraga, Sigum, Bakri terrorism, so in Chatarkanebo. BJP core agenda Yankani Yaurini, appeasement to none. Appeasement to none, Haraga Handa Kabar, the Yarako Pauls in the Yumpumuraga, Sugi Gathering, appease the Nova Honorambagi instance, detail, Congresski, election observer, Sri Jayam, Rameshna Pongdokre, Adugizumatakta, Tandel District, Akogi, Yana Tazida Monda, BJP, Kader Singa, NSNIM, Gimio Pullaga, NPP candidate, Attacker, Puria Habasijo, Kabargi Pong, the Yaugram.
Medical student studying in Ukraine Bisanta Soram expressed that arriving at Imphal from the war-hit Ukraine was like a dream. He related that he had almost lost hope of reaching Manipur again. Bisanta Soram of Nagamapal Soram Lerok, studying MBBS at Vinnytsia National Medical University in Ukraine, who arrived at Imphal yesterday, was speaking exclusively to Mami TV News today. Bisanta is the only son of Soram Bijendra and Hizam Santi Rani. Relating his struggle to escape from Ukraine, Bisanta Soram said Russia declared war and invaded Ukraine's capital Kyiv on February 24th. On the next day, on February 25th, he, along with 25 other Indian students, including Denit Lintozamov Lelong Chajing, left the university around 3:30 and headed towards Ukraine-Poland border. They traveled around 30 kilometers without food and proper sleep and reached the Ukraine border on February 28. Later, the Ukrainian army divided the stranded Indians in groups and were sent for Poland. After reaching Poland on March 1, the Indian embassy arranged a hotel for them and they stayed at the hotel till March 2. On the next day, on March 3, the students boarded an Indigo for New Delhi at 11 a.m. and landed in Delhi around 7 a.m. on March 4. Then he arrived at Bir Tikendrajit International Airport yesterday around 3 p.m., Bisanta said. He further expressed gratitude to Chief Minister Anne Biren for personally reaching out and encouraging them, and also thanked Union Minister of State for External Affairs Dr. R.K. Ranjan for extending various help. Bisanta also thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for arranging the evacuation mission.
I say, yeah, khara emotional audio galle adubu I say haido kandamne adubu I khandi khanjagi I bu yorakhidra na kagino di pau taba me amse negative pau akta tare ba border ta mi fudhare border da chalan re na ade I say khomana se phone se pukta do sele ado aina khomada hai nga kho ai toroke battery se low re ni na ado aina khandi khanjagi kagino battery do low khadi mu kamai wari sana do na khalleba ado battery se aina marak ta switch off toroga amu on toroga khomada aina yoriba position se haidi haijagi aduda aina khomada last marak da amuk hai yenga horo ma switch off to ringai da haidi haijagi aduda aina khandi khangi sina kaigumba last oigradi komai to do no khalle kaigino di Ukrainian army singna atopa satra kha maning da tanthoki basu yaweba border nakshala kanda ada aingon da thokka dra to khanjagi aduda aina aigi phone se I whole journey do loi save tara thamjabane aduda Poland gi border do hek la kanda hotel yaro kanda aigi mobile jisu huran bigre Poland border da yaro kanda Poland gi border bokti loi thamja Poland gi hotel da yaro kanda aigi phone su huran bigre adu aina volunteer sing da haidi haigi aigi huran ge khotkre na aduda aina Poland gi hotel yaro kanda khumada aina topa mi gi phone da imana bi gi phone gi toroga aina khumada paudi tamgi mai hotel da yore war no ai yora ani na tawgi adone ai tasengna border da leping ai di ai mobile ga do charge su yawgi de aduda power bank su thamjabane power bank su loi use
no mama le bi
Workers of BJP candidate of Wangjing Tentha Assembly constituencies, Pangnam Brozent, allegedly threatened voters who do not support BJP and restricted them from exercising their franchise from polling station number 34/9 to 34/17. The irate voters who were not allowed to vote yesterday, led by INC candidate M. Hemanta, took out a protest march till Thoubal DC office demanding repoll at the said polling stations today. The police foiled the march when the protesters reached Athokpam Bazaar. Later, INC candidate M. Hemanta, along with Pradhan of Tentha Gram Panchayat, Naurem Pradeep, and INC election agent, went inside the DC office and submitted a memorandum. Speaking to media persons after submitting the memorandum, Morangtem Hemanta alleged that 2/3 BJP agents did proxy voting at polling number 9 to 17 in the constituencies. Therefore, he demanded the authority concerned to produce webcast footage of the said polling stations, or else the election result in the constituencies cannot be declared, Hemanta maintained. Stating that the thumb impressions of every voter was taken during the polling, he demanded that the counting of voters must be done after taking the impression. The memorandum also demanded to conduct survey of voter with ink stain on the index finger in Wangjing area, he said.
Vote Hadaba Matamda, meeting Jiggy Kupis or Name, Madugi from the Election Commission of Indiana people, Matugina, signature of thumb impression lay, Basima Tinare Madudi, me Malaga, Yankaze, Matanda some number. Madam Maduna, Heidi Baze, both Tibaze, Masi Yanga, okay, Kigadavani.
Meanwhile, National People's Party NPP candidate of Wangjing Tentha Assembly constituencies, Usam Manglin, accused BJP candidate of the constituencies, Pangnam Brozent, of not making yesterday's election free and fair. He also alleged that BJP workers carried out proxy voting from polling number 9/17 at Wangjing and denied voters of the constitutional rights. Speaking on the matter, Manglem said the elections at polling number 1 to 4 in Tentha was not free and fair. MLA Brozan instigated every polling to cause a riot. Hence, the party will send a letter to authority concerns to conduct re-poll at polling number 9 to 17 in Wangjing, Manglem said.
Free and fair election one vote ki type the me kuding maki voting rights amata lehendre authorities in the Yangsan view Wangjingi oina 9 dagina 17 bu mi the vote hada fangre mi magi worker ama nina ahu marina vote myam lemon namaga lere adagi 10 thar omdana 1 2 3 4 je akoigi free and fair election later one man adum loimak namagi mong de lere masi one akoigi free and fair election तो हनबीना भाई authority सिंह जो हाइजरी प्लस इरांग जो सागत पी गनो अकोई शांति लेना मिखल पांगथोक्सी अकोई सिदा लागा एमएलए न चंगा इरांग सागत पजे तो बिंदना भाई एमएलए के थ्रू जो हाइजरी.
On the other hand, MLA Pangnam Brozan said the violence erupted as NPP agents dominated polling stations 34/35 and 34/36 at KHAIDEM Bikong in Wangjing Tentha constituencies without any BJP agents to carry on with the elections violating the rules.
अखोई बीजेपी के एजेंट अमता फममदब एनपीपी के एजेंट दंग फमबा अदुग मोइना पोसी निंग तब थादब मदुगी दमता अखोई एजेंट फमला थादबियो हाइबनि हौजी एजेंट लाखरे मोइना हाना एजेंट फमुरबनि मोइना तांतरपनि तांतरपदो हौजी एजेंट आई लामिन एजेंट फमे भोट फजन थादब हौलो न मयाम दुगी भोट क्यू लेप भोट फजन थादब हौलो असिगे दमता ऑफिशियल सिल्लांग इबो मयाम याम थागली याम फजन सिंबि अदुगो एजेंट फमन्दन भोट थादब हाइबसिदि मसिदि एजेंट की हक तो मांगबनि अदुन एजेंट दो थादर म तांतरपनि
All Manipur Working Journalists Union AMZU has condemned the assault and snatching away of the mobile phone of Mami TV's video journalist El Kanta yesterday at polling station 32/26 and 32/24 at Charangpat High School in Wangkham Assembly constituencies. AMZU in a press release said during a live coverage of the second phase of elections at the polling station at Charangpat High School by Mami TV staff reporter George Sharma and video journalist El Kanta, a group of people slapped, punched and kicked Kanta. They also snatched away his mobile phone. The union strongly condemned the assault on media persons while on duty as per ECI guidelines. In a similar incident, a reporter of Tom TV was manhandled and insulted at Ningombam on February 28 while covering the election. In connection to the incident, Kanta filed a report at Thobal police stations while the editor-in-chief of Mami TV submitted a letter to ECI. AMZU further appealed to the authorities concerned to arrest and punish those involved in the unfortunate incident. Kuki Students Organization Sadar Hills has warned to impose a 24 hours total shutdown in Kangpokpi district on March 7 from 5 a.m. if actions are not taken up against the commando personnel who allegedly assaulted General Secretary of KSO Sadar Hills within 2 days. According to the spokesperson of KSO Sadar Hills, K. Songren Kom said the state government and the authority concerned have not taken up any actions against the commando personnel involved in the incident. As such, the federating unit of the student organizations held a meeting and decided to impose a 24 hours total shutdown in Kangpokpi district on March 7th. During the total shutdown, transport business establishment and government institutions will be closed, KSO added. The polling for the second phase of elections to the 12th Manipur Legislative Assembly elections concluded peacefully in Jiribam Assembly constituency. The constituencies registered 75.02% of total voter turnout. Despite witnessing some technical issues at some polling stations, polling officials deposited their ballot boxes at the strong room at Jiribam DC complex around 5 p.m. Addressing the media about yesterday poll, BJP candidate N. Buddha Chandra said, while inspecting different polling stations of Jiribam, they found voters exercising their rights in a peaceful manner. Every voter of Jiribam is getting accustomed to casting votes and the voter turnout has also increased. Buddha Chandra expressed confidence that he will win the election. Here we have a short commercial break. Please stay tuned for more update.
LX Sublimation. Pauna Bazaar, Imphal, JMG Shopping Complex, first floor. Mafam asida mug printing, cover printing, t-shirt, keychain, photo frame, sublimation ki pot khuding mug wholesale da pangbigani. Items available are mug printing, cover printing, t-shirt, keychain, photo frame. All the mentioned items will be available at wholesale rate in Alex Sublimation.
Welcome back again after the break. India reported 5,476 COVID-19 cases with 158 deaths in the last 24 hours. India's total tally of COVID-19 cases rose to 4.29 crore while the active case dipped to 59,442 according to the Union Health Ministry data. Meanwhile, the death count climbed to 5.15 lakh with 158 deaths, the data stated. The daily COVID-19 cases have remained less than 1 lakh for 28 consecutive days. The active cases comprise 0.14% of the total infections, while the national COVID-19 recovery rate has further improved to 98.65%. On the other hand, with 9,754 patients recovered in the last 24 hours, the number of people who have recuperated from the disease surged to 4.23 crore, while the case fatality rate was recorded as 1.20%. Further, with the administrations of more than 26.19 lakh vaccine doses in the last 24 hours, India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage has exceeded 178.83 crore. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called another high-level meeting on Saturday evening to discuss the situation in war-hit Ukraine and India's evacuation efforts to bring back its citizens, sources said. Since Sunday, Modi has chaired a number of such meetings. India on Saturday said its main focus now is on the evacuations of around 700 Indian students stranded in the eastern Ukrainian city of Sumy, which has been witnessing bombings and airstrikes. At a media briefing, External Affairs Minister spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said India hopes to evacuate its citizens from Kharkiv and Pisochin in the next few hours. Meanwhile, the Indian embassy in Ukraine today began its last leg of Operation Ganga, its evacuation mission for Indians stranded in Ukraine, and asked students who are staying in their own accommodations to reach the Hungarian city center in the Hungarian capital Budapest. In an earlier tweet, the embassy has requested its nationals who are still stranded in conflict-stricken Ukraine to fill up a form mentioning basic details. The embassy's official Twitter account posted a Google form asking for basic details like name, passport number, and current location. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah today said that significant efforts will be taken by the government to increase women personnel in the Central Police Force. The centre will increase it to take the male-female ratio to at least 80:20, Shah said. Shah was speaking at the 53rd Raising Day celebrations of the Central Industrial Security Force CISF in Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh. Praising the work that CISF had done during COVID, the Home Minister said that when there were people coming from all parts of the world, CISF would welcome them. He continued to pay his tribute to the officers who had died on duty because of COVID. Shah also encouraged a hybrid security model and said that CISF and the private sector can come together to provide effective security to various private industrial and manufacturing sector units. He further asked the force to prepare a 25-year roadmap in the next 5 years so that it could emerge as a result-oriented security agency by the time India enters the 100 years of its independence. As the Russia-Ukraine war entered day 11, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a desperate plea to U.S. senators on Saturday to send more planes to help the country battle Moscow invasion. In Ukraine, what looked like a breakthrough ceasefire to evacuate residents from Mariupol and Volnovakha quickly fell apart Saturday as Ukrainian officials said Zelensky had halted the work. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin said Moscow would consider any third-party declarations of a no-fly zone over Ukraine as participations in the armed conflict. On the other hand, the US and the UK have issued travel advisories and recommended their citizens to leave Russia. Now let's recap the headlines once again. Political commentator CHENGLEINGANBI asserts bomb blast at his gate, continuations of gigging by BJP-led government. Voters allegedly not allowed to vote by BJP workers in some polling stations in Wangjing Tentha constituencies. INC candidate and PP candidate demand re-poll. Reaching Manipur from war-hit Ukraine was like a dream, says medical student Bisanta Soram. That's the end for today's News English Bulletin. Keep watching Mami TV News for more update.